welcome back to this channel. It's your resident internet psychic medium and spiritual advisor, Mystic Rain, and today we are going to be talking about how to develop our psychic abilities, and with that, establishing psychic boundaries. So we're going to be talking about how to establish psychic boundaries, and one of the examples that I'm going to talk to you about today is something that I have been talking about for years, but there are people that are sort of cycling in and out, and some people catch it, some people don't, and then so we're going to explain it again because I think it's really important. Here is the thing about me. You're not going to get that sing-songy spiritual teacher. You're not going to get it from me. For me, psychic development and spirituality is about empowerment, coming into your power, coming into your truth and who you are as a being. And so I'm not going to teach it to you in a bitch kind of way. Listen, if you want to develop your psychic abilities, you need to know how to have boundaries. And if you are someone that struggles with boundaries in the real world, you are going to struggle with boundaries psychically. I mean, the two just kind of go together. But the reason why boundaries are so important is because if you don't set rules when you are working with spirit, you will find that sometimes you may feel as if they may have overstepped a line, or people may have overstepped a line because you didn't set any rules. I also want to clarify that when I say spirit, I'm talking about humans too, because humans are spirit, right? We're just in flesh in this particular reality. Right? When I'm talking about spirit, I'm talking about those that are here and those that are there. I'm talking about the now and the other. Just like in regular life, when you don't have boundaries with people, you will notice that people will tap dance all over you, right? It is the same thing when you're doing spiritual work. However, when you're doing spiritual work, I have observed in my practice by my own experience and then observing other people is that the tap dancing is a little bit louder. And to be quite honest, I'm not really sure why that's the case. When you're working with people, there you can attract very easily a lot of needy people, and clients can also be energetic vampires. Just no one was honest with them and told them that that is what they were, right? You may attract people who love a pity party. You can attract narcissists. There are energies that people hold that you can draw to you that you don't necessarily like. And if you don't have energetic boundaries behind what you're doing, why you're doing it, and who you're working with or coming across, or what spirits you're working with or coming in contact with, then the world itself is going to run you, and you're not going to be able to run the world that you're actually living in. People who read tarot, whether or not you feel like you are a professional tarot reader or you're dabbling, right? So whether or not you feel like you are getting paid for reading tarot cards, or maybe you're reading them for a friend, will have had some experience in which you've read for somebody and that person became needy, or they were re-asking questions or trying to ask you a question in a different way because they didn't like how you originally said the answer, or maybe they came back to you super often, or they come to you with these super kind of manipulative questions, and some of you are about to feel real triggered. Oh, is homeboy coming back? And then the person says no, right? You as a psychic be like, no, he's not coming. Well, are you sure? Can you look again? I'm positive he's not coming. And then that person will come back to you like 3 days later and they say, well, can you look into it again? But that person is running your psychic field and they're running your energy, right? People don't necessarily recognize, through no fault of their own, because this is not the world that they live in, right? The amount of energetic output goes out in order to perceive, especially when you are perceiving for other people. That is actually an immense amount of energetic work, which is why if there's any of you that have already started your practice may feel that sometimes what happens is that you get tired, right? And so like you can have an hour-long meditation and then feel great, and then suddenly you're tired. You're doing a lot of energetic work, or maybe you're channeling or working with spirit, or you're trying to read, whether it's tarot or oracle cards or whatever. There's so much energy that you're actually tapping into. The work comes from the actual process of trying to tap, as well as the process of translating the messages that have actually been received, translating things that are symbols or sounds or sights or thoughts into something that makes sense in our language. All of that takes a lot of work and a lot of practice. But people don't know this. And so sometimes, like, let's say you do read cards, people think that it's sometimes as simple as turning the card over. And so they will come back and sort of dominate that energetic field. And if you don't have any boundaries, then you can't stop it, right? You can come in, do an entire energetic healing for somebody. Let's say you're a Reiki practitioner, or maybe you're just an energy healer, and someone says, oh, I got this problem in my back. And so you do all of this work on them to help them feel better, and then they'll turn around and look at you and say, well, this still hurts, you didn't do anything, and they want to be a jackass, right? So when you are establishing boundaries, it is boundaries with like the sort of spiritual realm in terms of spirit, the apparitions, I guess, the ghosts, whatever you were. I don't see ghosts. For any of you that are here for the first time, the reason why I can see them. I don't like to see them, so therefore I don't see them. That's not fun for me. I'm not evolved enough to be able to see through your body, right? And then like be mentally okay afterwards. Some people do, right? I see more of like a haze, right? Or kind of like whenever there's like a hot day and you look at the ground and you see this sort of like energetic haze kind of coming off of it. I can see more so like that because that's more comfortable for me, right? But like talking about spirit in that kind of way, or like a spirit guide or an ancestor and an angelic guide, something like that, right? They are a lot more respectful than people give them credit for. So much of the boundaries that you will need in place will be against people that are currently alive, right? If for whatever reason you are concerned about the boundaries that need to be in place for spirit themselves, your guides, your ancestors, or whatever, setting a boundary with them is actually quite easy. And all you have to do is put in an agreement. I like to call it a spirit contract. And so the way you create a spirit contract is simply by taking a moment to yourself, sitting down with a notebook and a pen, and writing down what you are and are not comfortable with in terms of how you're interacting with spirit. And then you can like draft it in the form of a contract, right? If that makes you feel better. If you want to sign it, you can sign it as well. I've got questions about that. Do I sign it? Yes. If you want to sign it, sign it. For me, in my spirit contract, I have things like, I don't want to see you popping around my house. That's rude. You don't pay bills here. You're not paying my rent. You're not paying my light bills. Don't you dare flick my goddamn light. That is rude. Unless you want to contribute to the finances, don't touch my things. Don't move my things around because I bought them and you didn't. I do not like that, right? I do not want you to get up for a glass of water at 2, 3 a.m. and then you're in my kitchen. That's rude. Don't do that, right? I also don't want to work with you unless I feel like working them myself. So if I'm occupied, if I'm bowling, which is rare because these nails, if I am, right, and I'm having a really good time, don't just pop up in my space and interrupt me. That's rude. And one of the biggest things in my spirit contract is I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. I don't want the apparition. I don't want the hint of it. I don't want to see you. I'm very okay with how I perceive it right now, and that's how I like. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. Don't show up that way. I think that's rude too. Don't do that, right? And that is the spirit contract. I also will, if you want to show up, let's say there is a person who is in my vicinity that needs a message and they need to hear it and it needs to come from me. I'm only willing to relay that message if that person is in a place where they are ready for their own healing, growth, and transformation. I don't want to work with people who are not in that place. And there's nothing wrong with not being in that place. Everybody is in different stages of their journey. I don't have time for it. I don't like it. I don't want it because the information that I'm sharing is going to trigger and shock, right? And if you are not there, I can do more harm than good by sharing this information with you. And so all of those factors are actually written in my spirit contract. And when I wrote down my spirit contract, I actually physically wrote it down. And I started with, Dear Spirit, here are my terms, right? Here are my terms and my conditions. And Spirit will say, okay, no problem. And then when it comes to people, dealing with people who are in your space, you're going to have to figure out what that's going to look like. Sometimes people come into their psychic abilities and there is this need to save, this need to help, this need to wake people up, right? And If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Some people don't want to be bothered, right? That may be a boundary that you need to set. And it may just be as simple as, hey, these people are not ready. I don't want to be called to people that are not ready, and I don't want people to call me who are not ready, right? You can set a boundary as into who is attracted to you. I only attract this kind of person. You can create a profile of the person, right? And which you are and who is attracted to you. Because when you are opening up your psychic abilities, your frequency changes, your vibration changes, especially if you are practicing like healing work and healing modalities, or even if you're carrying the intention. You don't actually physically have to be doing anything healing. You can carry an intention that like, I would like to do this one day, and then people will start to gravitate to you. And so you need to set the intention of what kind of people that is and who you want to actually do it. It may not be everybody, right? You may find some people pathetic, and some people will be like, oh my God, she's saying that. Hey, y'all know it. Setting spiritual boundaries is about understanding that you are the sovereign being. You are sovereign when it comes to your energetic field, and no spirit, dead or alive, has an ability to influence your energetic field without your consent. It is up to you and where you want it to go, and people cannot tug on it because they feel like tugging on it whenever they want to tug on it, right? That is what an energetic boundary is. And as you're tapping into your psychic abilities, it's really important that you are firm in this. And the reason for that is because you will have an ability to perceive things that the majority of people cannot perceive. I've had people say to me in the past, but Mystic Rain, there's a lot of this now. This seems to be so normal now. And the truth of the matter is, it actually isn't. If you are someone who has a YouTube channel whose algorithm is configured in a way to see these kind of things, then yes, it's normal for you, but it's not normal for others. For other people, it's still taboo. It's still different. It's still out of the ordinary, right? So you're picking up on energies and frequencies that the majority of people are not picking up on. And so you are going to be more sensitive. And if you don't have boundaries in place about how and what can interact with you and how it can impact you and how it can affect you, then what's going to happen is that you are going to be at whatever dominant energy, at the mercy of whatever dominant energy is in your space at any given time. And if you don't want to be in the mercy of a dominant energy, then you will make the decision that you are the dominant energy and you will put these things in place. And so when you are dealing with spirit who is on the other side, you can do this by being intentional about what you want and do not want to experience with spirit, by being intentional about how you wish and you do not wish to work with them. You can ask spirit, hey, I want you to be my guide, right? I want to be able to come to you with questions and you assist me in finding the answer. But then if you want to be specific, you can then go, but only at this time. I don't want to do spiritual work when I'm at my day job. Maybe it's distracting. Maybe you don't want to do both, right? I don't want to always have to have a spiritual dream and wake up from a premonition, right? I want to just be able to sleep and sleep quietly and calmly. You can do that. You can establish these boundaries, and spirit will listen to it because spirit, well, one, there's no ego over there. They don't really care, right? They are there to assist you on your journey. And so they understand that if this is the best way to assist you in your moment at present, they are more than willing to do that. It is also your turf. It's your plane. It's your dimension. It's not theirs. And they also need your help in order to communicate the messages that they feel need to come through. And so they are very agreeable, right? But when it comes to other people, when you're in this sort of spiritual space, you have to figure out what your boundaries are with other people as well, how you want other people to work with you spiritually. When you're in a place where you're like, I'm not helping you, I don't feel like being a savior in my job, I'm not Jesus, right? You may need to go talk to Jehovah, right? You are allowed to be like, this isn't working for me. Of course, there are always physical things that you can do because everything is intention setting. And if you want something physical that helps you reinforce the idea of a psychic boundary or a spiritual boundary, then have a look at my protection video. I list everything in there that you can do there, right? One thing that you can have is an amulet. I wear one on my ring finger all the time on my right hand, right? That is for protection. And again, protection is a boundary that you're setting. And it has been programmed, meaning I have put the intention into it that it's supposed to serve a certain kind of function and ward off certain things, certain experience, certain people, right? You can do this. You can have a black crystal, wear a black crystal. You can have salt in certain places, right? Some people will put salt and they'll sprinkle it and by the front door, the back door, the windows, or any of the entrances in their homes. And then that boundary is like, I don't want my crazy ass family in here. I don't want them coming in here like that, right? And so you can be as creative as you want to be, but boundaries are so important because you are now exposed to energies that you were not previously aware of. Not energies that are new or been created because you're being psychic now, but the way the world has already existed, you just didn't see it before. And because you're being exposed to all of these things, you have to get good at differentiating between yourself and the other. So I hope this was helpful. As always, if you like what you see, please subscribe to this channel. And if we don't meet again, I'll see you next lifetime.